Hi, I'm Bob. This is the Stata Applications Part 3. I will continue to talk about how the parental marital status affects child's adult earnings. In this part, I will tackle the endogeneity problem caused by sample selection bias. The observations in the sample are for the workers who have participated in the labor market. We do not have earnings data for those who are unemployed. The labor force participation decisions may be correlated with the parental marital status. If this is the case, then it will lead to inconsistent OLS estimates using the selected sample without considering the child's labor force participation choice. The solution to the endogenous sample selection is to run a selection probit model first, and then use the predicted probabilities of labor force participation or the inverse use ratio as an additional regressor in the child's earnings equation. We can do the heckman two-step manually or use the extended regression command or the heckman command in Stata. I compare the estimates from the OLS to those from the selection correction models. The inverse use ratio is significant in the total effect model, which suggests that there is a sample selection bias. The estimate for the parental marriage effect on child's earnings is lower after correcting the selection bias. The reason is that the workers from intact families where their parents remain married are more likely to work after they grow up. This can be verified in the selection equation. On the other hand, the willingness to work is positively related to earnings. That's why there is an upward bias for the OLS estimate using the selected sample without considering the child's labor force participation decision. The individuals in surveyed households were checked as long as possible in the panel study of income dynamics, PSID, which makes the panel data analysis possible. The panel data individual random effect model allows individual heterogeneity and the correlation within individuals over time. The parental marriage effect on child's earnings is 0.120 using panel data random effect and selection correction. This implies that the workers from intact parental families in which their parents remain married during their childhood earn about 12% more than their counterparts who are raised by separated or divorced parents, on average holding other factors constant. The parental marriage effect on child's earnings is quite stable over time. The real earnings for the two groups of workers with different parental marital status increase over time, but the earnings gap between them maintains similar distance. Finally, I will investigate the relationship between the parental marital status and the intergenerational relative earnings change. The relative earnings are measured by the quintile in the earnings distribution of the sample. The intergenerational relative earnings change is defined as the change of the earnings quintiles between parents and the child. An intergenerational relative earnings improvement occurs when the child's relative earnings are at a higher quintile than their parents. An intergenerational relative earnings worsening occurs when the child is at a lower earnings quintile than her parents. This pie chart shows that about 36% of the workers are at a higher earnings quintile than their parents, implying an intergenerational relative earnings improvement. About 34% of the workers experienced intergenerational relative earnings worsening. The earnings position for the rest of the workers is unchanged. So there were three categories of the dependent variable. I run the ordered probit model in Stata and interpret the result using marginsplot. The workers from intact families where their parents remain married always have a higher probability of improving their earnings situation than those from divorced families. They are also less likely to become worse than their parents. The regression model shows that having an intact family during childhood reduces the probability of relative earning worsening by about 5% and increases the relative earnings improvement about the same probability. Holding parental income and education and other child's characteristics constant,